Hi ladies and gentlemen, this little video is not so much a review, it's just a bit of an overview really, and a bit of a voyage of discovery, because what we have here is a Seiko Elnix electric watch. And when I say electric, I don't mean quartz, which of course we all know as the industry timekeeping standard the world over, with quartz watches being accurate to within a second or two per year and all that business. Electric watches, these were developed alongside quartz at the same time. Quartz technology was well known and in use long before these were around and about, but electric watches such as this marry components that we know and love from mechanical watches, in this case the oscillator, the balance, and combine it with the electrically driven magic powered quartz type technology. And I say magic because I don't understand electricity. You can't see where it goes, you can't see what it does. It confuses me. This is why I like mechanical things. You can see what's supposed to go where and what's supposed to happen. I doff my hat to anybody that can poke a multimeter probe inside a piece of electrical equipment and tell you what's wrong with it, or what it's doing or what it's not doing that it should or shouldn't be. And hats off to them, because that's incredible as far as I'm concerned, because it baffles me. But what we have here is a Seiko Elnix, and you can see, hopefully that will come across well on here, but we've got this beautiful silver dial with a linen type texture, which was not something I could see very clearly on the photos when I bought this. Bought this from a good friend, and I've been fascinated by electric watches, and since fairly quite recently. I mean, I knew of their existence but didn't really know much about them. Are we sitting comfortably? Because I would like to read you a story, or rather I would like to read you some excerpts from the book A Journey in Time, The Remarkable Story of Seiko, which I highly recommend. The Elnix that I have and the Bolivar Accutron tuning fork movements, I always assumed that these were predecessors of quartz technology. And that is actually not true at all. Quartz technology predates these by a long way. What was lacking was miniaturization. This is from a chapter titled The Day That Changed the History of Time. The phenomenon of quartz timekeeping was not new, but the ability to miniaturize the components to fit within the confines of a watch case had taxed the finest brains in the watch industry for many years. When Seiko started its quartz watch development project, the technology to achieve their goal did not exist, and so they could not get outside help with this pioneering work. In the true Seiko spirit, almost everything that was needed had to be developed in-house. Towards the end of the 1960s, it was widely known that the Japanese and the Swiss were neck and neck in the race to be the first to market a quartz wristwatch. Seiko crossed the finishing line ahead of the Swiss and marketed their first quartz watch, the Astron, on December the 25th, 1969. Although the Swiss had already unveiled prototypes, they did not market their first quartz watches until 1970. The first step towards the use of quartz as a regulator in timepieces was the result of work by Pierre Curie, who was better known for his pioneering work on radioactivity with his wife Marie Curie. He first observed the phenomenon of piezoelectricity in 1880 while he was working with his brother Jacques. Their discovery, which subsequently led to a revolution in timekeeping and a number of other industries, was that some crystals generate electricity when pressure is applied to them. They also discovered that the reverse is true. When an electric current is passed across a quartz crystal, it deforms and vibrates. As telephony and the use of the radio developed in the early part of the 20th century, there was a need to find ways to maintain stable electrical frequencies. Warren Marrison, a Canadian telecommunications engineer working for Bell Telephone Laboratories, was searching for solutions to this problem. In the course of his work, he investigated the properties of quartz crystals that had been discovered by Pierre Curie. Mr. Marrison succeeded in developing a large but highly accurate clock that utilized the stable frequencies generated by a quartz crystal when used in an electrical circuit. He was able to demonstrate that clocks regulated by a quartz oscillator were more accurate than the most accurate mechanical clocks then being used as time standards in astronomical observatories. By the 1940s, quartz clocks were being used by time standard laboratories all over the world. The 1940s, we are talking about the time of the Second World War. Quartz clocks were being used by time standard laboratories in the 1940s. I think that is incredible. The major problem with these early quartz clocks was that they were bulky. Mr. Marrison's quartz clock filled an entire room. Apart from the difficulty of miniaturizing components sufficiently, in the 1940s and early 1950s there was another enormous obstacle to the production of quartz wristwatches. There were no batteries small enough to fit inside a watch case. The first miniature batteries were developed by Samuel Rubin during World War II and manufactured by P.R. Mallory, but they were not leak-proof and could not store enough electricity to power a watch for a year or more. Only when Hamilton Watch Company in the USA pooled its development resources with National Carbide was a battery small enough for use in a wristwatch produced for the first time. Hamilton Watch Company's first electric watch, the Hamilton 500, was launched in the USA in January 1957. Hamilton's introduction of battery-powered watches represented an intermediate step towards the successful development of quartz wristwatches. In the 500, the mainspring was replaced by a battery, but the use of a balance wheel and balance spring was still retained. This novel approach failed to produce much of an improvement in timekeeping because the frequency of oscillation remained the same as in mechanical watches. You can see we've got a beautiful smooth sweep of the seconds hand, as you would get with a nice mechanical watch, and the rest of the layout is very typical elegant Seiko that you would find on a quartz or mechanical Seiko. You've got this logo down here, which is an ancient symbol of magic. No, it's not. It's this symbol down here is the Elnix logo. And underneath that, you've got the Dyni logo, which appropriately is a lightning bolt, which, this being an electric watch, is pretty good, pretty appropriate, as you would expect. So, what I'm going to do now is pop the bracelet off, and we're going to take the back off and have a bit of a nosy inside and see what's in there. So just before I remove the back, we'll take a look at the case back. As you can see, it is model 0703 6010, very typical horseshoe Seiko case back with the Dyni logo and the serial number on there. One quick note, I would like to ask you all for your support here, and should anything be said, deny any knowledge of me opening this up, tampering with it in any way, shape or form, because if that becomes known, then the chap who sold it to me might not honour the 24 months warranty he gave me with it. So thank you for that. So silence please, and a drum roll. No, okay, maybe not. Look at that. Wow, look at that. That's fantastic. That is really, really lovely. I'm just going to pop on my loop and take a quick look up close. Now, that's kind of strange. It's I'm not entirely sure what I expected, but the balance cock and components and the upper bridge that we can see much of here is really solid. It's, you know, it's incredibly, this must have been an expensive watch when it was new, when these were first created. I don't know enough about the history to know the kind of market these were aimed at or the prices they were sold at. This is obviously a Dyni one, and it's a JDM because it has the kanji day wheel. I don't know if these were marketed in the West at all. I know much of the Dyni line weren't, like the 7015, 7016, 7017 and 7018 flyback chronos, and it's really high quality. The finishing's nice, it's good thick material, and it has the micro adjuster. So you have an adjustable stud lever, as you would have with any mechanical watch, and then you can adjust your timing with the regulator lever here. Typical shock settings on the balance, because it's a standard balance wheel, and as you can see, the balance is swinging away merrily there, very, very nicely indeed. The biggest difference is over here, this is not a mainspring, it's a battery, and this is bits of electrical jiggery-pokery. It's magic, and you can see a coil under there. I don't know much about electrical things, but I do know that that's a coil, because there's coils and coils of wire under there. I'm not going to poke too fervently with my tweezers, just in case I jab that into the coil. I'm sure that's not a good thing to do to them. Yeah, this is such a beautiful thing. It's really well made. You've even got this deep red paint in the balance cock lettering, the Seiko lettering. I'm actually going to scoot in and give you a close-up look at this. Here we are up close and personal. You can see the balance beating away there, and it does hack. I noticed when I was setting the time earlier and playing about with it. Yes, it does indeed have a balance stop. I can't quite see where that's popping out to hold the balance just at the moment, but as you can see there, it does have a balance stop, and it stops that dead, so the movement hacks, as the term is. You can see the balance is not quite your conventional one, and I'm assuming that these lumps either side have some kind of pickup devices for the pulses. As I say, I don't know much about the technology of these, unfortunately, but there are undoubtedly people out there that do. It would be interesting. I'm going to have to find out more about these, because I know with regards to servicing, obviously the pieces like this will be the same as any standard mechanical watch, and it's a matter of cleaning them, degreasing them, and then lubricating the capstones, the end stones, and lubricating the jewels certainly in the upper plate. I'm not sure. I'm assuming the lower plate also is jeweled, but I would have to seek the knowledge of someone who's a bit more au fait with these, with regards to what you would do for cleaning these, in case there's any sort of special procedures and the like, because I would in fact like to look at servicing this at some point in the future, just as a matter of curiosity more than anything. It's currently running very, very nicely indeed, at a rate of sort of between -1 and +3 seconds per day dial up, so I'm certainly not going to moan at that for a watch as old as it is. The next step in the development of battery-powered watches was the use of a metal tuning fork, which produced a more stable rate of oscillation at a higher frequency, harnessing the principle that a tuning fork vibrates at a constant frequency. This technique was employed in the Bulova Accutron, the invention of Max Hetzel, a Swiss engineer working for Bulova in Bienne. He produced the first prototype of the Accutron in 1955, but it was not launched until 1960. It contained a tuning fork that was made to oscillate 360 times a second by a germanium transistor powered by a button-sized battery. Instead of ticking, like every mechanical watch that had ever been made, the Accutron hummed at a fixed pitch, just above middle C on the musical scale. It marked a step forward in timekeeping accuracy, as it was claimed to be accurate to within 1 minute a month, which was 5 to 6 times better than the best mechanical watches at the time. Bulova claimed it had an accuracy of 99.9977%. However, it was susceptible to shock and to external sounds, and so it failed to provide the perfect solution the watch industry had been seeking. Although the principle of quartz timekeeping had been known since Mr. Marison made his first quartz clock, the challenge for technicians trying to adapt the technology for use in a watch could be summarized by one word: miniaturization. Enormous progress was needed to adapt technology that once filled a room until it was small enough to fit inside a watch case. So in essence here, this is saying that quartz technology had been around for a long time and was known to be the best option and most accurate option. The restriction had always been miniaturization, and battery-powered watches such as the Elnix and other balance wheel regulated watches and the Bolivar Accutron were in fact, rather than a step towards quartz, they were a sideline developed technology to fill a gap until quartz could be miniaturized to a point where it would be usable in a wristwatch. And a little further on in this particular chapter, there's an interesting part here. Before concentrating on the use of quartz as the oscillator for the new age of battery-powered watches, Seiko's technicians experimented with a variety of other materials. Koichi Kubota started his career as an engineer at Daini Seikosha in 1947 and later joined the pioneering quartz watch development team. In an exclusive interview during research for this book, he explained that a variety of materials were tested as possible oscillators. He even tried using the metal from a balance spring, but the 1 kHz frequency it produced was too low to be useful. A clock containing a movement equipped with one of these balance spring metal oscillators can be found in the Seiko Institute of Horology in Tokyo, where Mr. Kubota became curator of world timepieces in 1999 and serves as honorary director. Although the institute was set up by Seiko, it contains exhibits by other manufacturers and from many periods of horological history. The final bit that I would like to read is just a little further on, and it says, knowing that Mr. Kubota had been closely involved with quartz watches since their inception, we asked if he could foresee the day when any other technology might take the place of quartz timekeeping. He replied, it is pointless to even try to replace quartz technology unless some other system reaches the same level of accuracy as atomic clocks. Atomic clocks are the most accurate of all. The best now have an accuracy of 1 second in 6 million years. 6 million years. But scientists expect to be able to improve this to 1 second in 6 billion years. Such levels of accuracy are important in some scientific and astronomical work and in the communications industry. Now that is a crazy level of accuracy. 1 second in 6 million years, and let alone future development making that 1 second in 6 billion years. But that really sort of throws things into perspective when you look at a mechanical watch which, when regulated, a high-grade mechanical watch, when regulated to within COSC standards, will be guaranteed to within, I believe off the top of my head, it is -3 to +6 seconds deviation per day. The majority, of course, are much better and will be within 1 or 2 seconds of zero, typically speaking, in most instances, assuming everything is as spotless as possible. And then with quartz, of course, you're talking about accuracy of 1 second per year with high-end quartz. But then when you look at atomic clocks and 1 second in 6 million years, I mean, that's just absolutely crazy. So having bored you for long enough with that little bit of close-up detail and me enthusing and over this and getting very excited, because I've never played with one of these before. You know, every day is a school day, as the saying goes. One last thing I'm going to do is just going to pop the blogue down there. I'm going to pop this on the wrist and just show you as an example of how nice it looks when worn. Now, unfortunately, I can't, I'm afraid, zoom out any more than that, but we've got this really nice bracelet here, and although it's a small watch, you can see that looks really, really elegant. I mean, I have very, very skinny wrists anyway, and I do wear some large watches, and sometimes some people comment and make mention that the watches look too big on me, but I don't care. I like big watches. I've got a lot of big watches, and I don't care how big and bulky they look on me. But the added bonus is I can wear a small watch as well, and it can still look great without it looking too small, as some people complain. So there we go. I'll actually add a photo with a wrist shot to give a bit of a better idea. I do need to adjust this bracelet ever so slightly. I think I might need to remove one link from that. And there we go, the Seiko Elnix, a brief look into this fascinating mix of magic and mechanical. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.